Awesome. All right. So first off, welcome everyone to this month's edition of the Louisville Real Estate Investor Meetup Group. As I was mentioning to Mindy just now, that for those guys who are new to the group, we started the group back in March of 2019 as just a real estate meetup to just meet and talk about real estate, regardless of your experience level. And we slowly started growing, and now we've had the opportunity to kind of reach out to people all across the nation to become our speaker. And obviously Mindy has a wealth of knowledge, and we're really thankful that she was able to take some of the time in her day to be able to come speak with us and talk to us about this awesome topic, which again is the first time we've ever had someone talk about, which is a live-in flip. So thanks, Mindy, for stopping by.
Well, thank you for having me. I love talking about real estate, and I love talking about my version of house hacking, which is the live-in flip.
Awesome. Well, to start out, what we always do is for our speakers is we ask them to share a little bit about themselves. Can you kind of give us a little bit of your background and what got you interested in real estate?
I was born in a small town in Southern Illinois. No, I was, what got me it started in real estate. I was renting a house. So I've broken every lease that I've ever had because I'm a terrible person and didn't read it, because who does? I took over a friend's lease because she was getting a divorce and it was kind of ugly and she had to move out. So I'm like, I'll move in. So I took over her lease, and I'm like, I'm throwing away my money on rent. I can't do that. I have to buy a house. So as soon as my lease was up, I scrambled to buy a house, and I bought it. I ended up buying a condo, and the condo was $50,000, which is a really nice price to pay when you are, God, was I 26 years old? And my mortgage payment was $7 more a month than my rent payment. So I thought I was doing really, really well. I fixed it up because it was really ugly. It was all I could afford. I'm like, I'm not going to live in this ugly house. I've got to make it pretty. I made it very pretty. I sold it for $75,000 when I got married. And I said, oh, I want to do that again. That was great. I got to live in a nice house and make a lot of money afterwards. I didn't know it was called flipping. I didn't know it was called live-in flipping. I just knew that I liked making money while living in a place that I was going to live in anyway. And I did all the math because I was really mad. It was a condo. They had a special assessment. I think it was levied the second month that I lived there. And I was so offended. Like, how could you charge me extra? I made my budget on this, $200 a month, and now it's $400 a month. And I'm so angry about this. I didn't read the HOA docs. I mean, I did everything wrong. But by the time I moved out, it cost me $1,100 to live in this building for 4 years. Total out of pocket. After I sold it and paid off everything, $1,100 for 4 years. That's not bad.
That's not bad at all. I'd like to know what the monthly is on that. You'd have to divide it out by what, 4 years?
48 divided by 1,100 is like what, $25 a month, something like that.
$25 a month. Ooh, that's going to be my new book. How I lived for $25 a month.
I like that. That's good. Yeah, those condo fees though, they can get you when they up the assessment on them, and especially if it doubles like that and you're only paying $25 a month to live there.
Yeah, it would have been a really great deal if they hadn't jacked up my HOA.
Yeah. So we're talking today about live-in flipping, and that's something I think a lot of people are really interested in, because it's, for a lot of people, I think it's an attainable thing. You can buy a place, minimum down, fix it up while you live there. There's no time frame. You're living there anyways. And then the tax benefits as well are awesome. But I guess we were wanting to know, what are some pros and cons that you see with live-in flipping?
The tax benefits are the biggest one, because when you buy a house and you flip it, Luke, and you're not living there, you are paying income tax on that gain, which is whatever your income tax rate is. And you are most likely paying self-employment tax as well. I pay none of those taxes because I lived in the house for 2 of the last 5 years. So there is a timeline on that. I'll get to that in a second. But you basically buy a house that isn't so pretty. You move in, you make it pretty. After you live there for at least 2 solid years, you can sell it. It is now free capital gains, free money, You don't pay any capital gains taxes up to $250,000 if you are single, and up to $500,000 if you're married. I've never hit $500,000. It is my goal to pay taxes on my flip, because I think that would be really sweet.
Yeah, I'm down for that too. Sign me up.
So,
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry. I just want to say there's a live-in flip doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be a take it to the studs, former meth house with mold growing all over it. It can just be unattractive. It can be really, really ugly. It could be a smokehouse where somebody was smoking in the house for the last 40 years, which is the house that I'm in right now. It can be a house that had cats. I was told the other day, Mindy should look up what a cat house is. I know what a cat house is in that regard. But when I'm talking about real estate, a cat house is a house that has had a lot of kitty cats living in it, some or no litter boxes, lots of aromatic experiences. Smells like money is what I've heard people say. But you know, those are kind of gross too. But a smokehouse, I mean, they didn't even open the windows. They just left the windows all closed up. I opened the windows. I got an ozone machine for $80 on Amazon. I moved it around the house over the course of a weekend. You can't be in the house when the ozone machine is going, but for $80 in a weekend, I could move in. That's pretty sweet. And then, I mean, every room in this house is hideous, but I'm going to do new flooring. LVP is real easy to do. It's not that expensive. You can do it on your own timeline. Oh, I'm going to do one room today. You don't have to bang out the whole house. Right now, I've got several different floorings, some of the old stained carpet, some of the LVP, some just bare wood, but I'm getting there.
That's awesome. And I think it's cool that you mentioned the tax benefit, because like you said, was it $250,000 in capital gains if you've lived in it over the last 2.5? So if you lived in the property for at least 2 of the last 5 years, if you sell the property, you don't pay up to $250,000 in capital gains. If you're married, I think it's $500,000. Is that correct?
Yep. And that's just the gain. So you buy it for 100, you sell it for 350. Single people, no capital gains. If you sell it for 360, then you're paying taxes on the $10,000. Oh, unless you put any money into it. So the capital gain is the amount you paid for the property plus the amount that you put into it, and then the difference between the amount you sell it for. So you really have to work to pay capital gains taxes on a live-in flip. And hey, if you do, you just kind of won the lottery.
Yeah, I mean, would you mind paying taxes on the extra $10,000 if you've already made 200 and something thousand? It almost makes no sense. Yeah.
Like I said, it is my goal, and I think I can do it with this house. It is my goal to pay taxes on my flip, my live-in flip.
I hope you do end up paying a lot of taxes on that flip.
A lot of taxes.
Thank you.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about that first live-in flip? It's always good to kind of get an experiential story about your experience. So can you kind of elaborate a little bit on, number one, what was your experience? How long did it take to complete? And maybe what are some of the lessons you learned from the experience?
My first live-in flip was that condo. The lesson that I learned is don't buy condos. Some people are able to make it work. Those people probably read the HOA docs. They probably read do some research into how stable the homeowners association actually is. Mine was not stable at all. And if I would have opened a page, I would have been able to see that pretty clearly. So definitely read what you're getting into. And that, the HOA doesn't just apply to a condo. It also applies to any property within an HOA. So most of your cookie cutter subdivisions are going to be HOAs. I shouldn't say most, a lot of your cookie cutter subdivisions. A lot of the newer subdivisions are going to have an HOA. And you want to make sure that you can do all the things you want to do with the house before you buy in an HOA. So let's see. I bought it for $50. I did a lot of cosmetic stuff, but I didn't have any money. So I went to the Oops paint section it was Sears at the time. I bought the cheapest paint I could find. That's always a good idea. Now, instead of putting 1 coat of paint on, I was putting 5 coats of paint on, but I got it for like $2 a gallon. So, and I just mixed a bunch of paint together because I couldn't find a color that I liked. Don't mix finishes, but you can definitely mix your own paints. They sell 5-gallon buckets at Home Depot. The price of a Oops paint gallon is now $9 at Home Depot. So a little bit more, but it's still less money than, going to get a brand new gallon that you choose the paint color yourself. What did I learn? I learned that it is a slog. It took me, that particular one I lived there for 4 years. I was working on it all 4 years. I needed to tile the floor in the kitchen and the entryway because it was vinyl. The carpet was really gross. The paint was disgusting. I learned don't paint your walls dark, dark, dark green and then paint the ceiling dark green. That was a fun color to try and cover up. And let's see, there were a lot of problems on the exterior of the building. Your home inspection, even if you're getting a condo, they should peek out the windows and see, oh, look at all these rotting windowsills. Maybe that's going to be an issue down the road. I've learned a lot of other lessons after more flips, such as if you're doing a whole house, if you feel like you've graduated to an entire house, leave one room untouched. Because there are days that you come home and this tool breaks or that tool gouges something, or you did this wrong, or you have to rip that out and you're like, oh, I can't even deal with this. I just want to leave. And having a room that is untouched where you can go and you're not looking at stud walls or, thinking about all the things that are ripped apart in that house is really mentally relaxing. And it can get to be a real slog. Doing it with kids is super fun. Highly recommend that.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids. I started flipping before they were born. I started flipping before I got married.
Okay.
And we were in the middle of one flip when the older one was born. And we didn't complete it until the younger one. They're 3 years apart. So the younger one was also born into that flip. And that was a whole house, pop the top, add a second story with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms upstairs and change the layout of the main floor and, go big or go home. I don't know that I would recommend popping the top on your very first live-in flip. Maybe start with something a little less daunting.
Wow. So I'm assuming you had to have like a tarp over the house. How did they even manage that?
Oh yeah, that one. Ooh, that was in Madison, Wisconsin. And that was the one that almost killed my spirit. We had a 500-year flood, 500-year storm where water just would not stop coming down. The tarp over the roof ripped because of course you have wind before you have the storm. And then there was water coming in on the house. There was one spot right in the middle of the bed that I could put the baby who was 4 months old and she wouldn't get wet. But we had buckets around, like it was raining in the light fixtures. It's not for the faint of heart to do a pop top. So definitely don't start on that your first time. Do some research on your contractors, because boy, I can find some bad contractors.
I think we all can find bad contractors here,
Yes.
every once in a while. So I'm sure you can't just choose a property, like point your finger and be like, okay, that one's for sale, I'm buying that one. You've got to have specific criteria, I'm sure, to make sure that you can make everything work out. What type of criteria are you looking for specifically when you're looking for a live-in flip versus any other type of flip you might do?
Well, the main difference between a live-in flip and a flip is the live-in part. So you want a habitable house. I don't mess with meth. If it has meth exposure, I'm not buying the house. I want to be able.
Last year.
How was your experience?
Bad. We did not make any money. We basically broke even. So.
Well, that's, you know what? That's still like a base hit, because sometimes it costs you money to flip a house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't touch meth. I don't want to live in a house that has mold. I want it to be fairly safe, so I don't mess with broken foundations, because those are not repairs that I've done before. I don't know anything about those repairs, and they seem really, really daunting. The meth in particular, there was a meth house in my town, notorious meth house. So I called up a meth remediation company. I said, how much does it cost to remediate meth? Because it was a really smoking hot deal. And he said, well, for that house, it'll be about $75,000 or $80,000. I was like, whoa, it's not a smoking hot deal anymore. If I got to put that kind of, he's like, well, you got to do this and this and this. It's a whole process. I have seen some people in the BiggerPockets forum say, oh, just paint it with kills. Please don't paint your meth house with kills. That's not the proper way to remediate meth.
No.
But yeah, the first thing that it has to be live in and, or livable. And I don't care that it's ugly. I didn't want to live in this house with the smoke. So we just didn't move out of our other house until this house was ready. But once it was ready, I could move in. I don't care that the carpet's ugly. I don't care that, you know, the bathrooms are hideous. I have foil wallpaper on my bathroom upstairs. I'm not looking forward to taking that out. And that's, you know, that's another one. I don't do a lot of wallpaper. If the entire house is covered with wallpaper, that is a big no, because wallpaper is really hard to remove, especially the old stuff. The glue was like super glue. So it's very difficult to get that off the walls. That's really time consuming. Oh, and I do everything myself with my husband. So I want a repair that I can do, and wallpaper removal is not something that I enjoy. It's very sticky and gross. So let's see what else. It's got to have enough bedrooms. It's got to have either bathrooms or a space for bathrooms. The current house that we're in had 2.5 bathrooms, but the basement was unfinished. And when we were scoping the sewer, we discovered that it went out this one way, and oh, we can cut into the floor and make another bathroom down there. So that's what we did. We hired somebody to cut into the floor to make the bathroom for us, or well, to cut into the floor so we could access the sewer. And then we're building the bathroom now. But it has to have value addable. It has to be value addable. There's a new word. We got this house for $365,000, and around the corner, it's kind of in a cookie cutter subdivision. Around the corner is the same house. It's sold. We bought this in September. It sold in April for $500,000 or $600,000.
Wow.
So there's a bit of a spread there.
Yeah.
I have money to be made. If that house would have sold for $400,000, all the work that this house needs would not have made $365,000 a good price to pay for it. And I was able to make a low offer because I'm an agent. I said I won't take a commission, which means I don't have to pay taxes on that commission. So how to avoid paying taxes with Mindy? Legally, I didn't have to pay taxes on that. I just got it as a price reduction. And then when we went through our home inspection, I'm like, wow, this place has really got a lot of problems. I went back to the agent and I said, I'm going to have to cancel this deal. I didn't know all the issues that the house had. And, I'm going to have to cancel it unless I can get a significant price reduction. He said, well, what's a significant price reduction? I said, $32,000. And he said, I'll give you 30. I'll eat that too. I'll take $30,000 off. So that brought it down to the $365,000 price. And so it's got to be able to make money right off the bat. I'm not going to buy a house for $365,000 that needs $35,000 worth of work and hope that I can sell it for $400,000 next year or $425,000. Not every house makes a good flip.
Mm-hmm.
And not every house makes a good live-in flip. There's a lot of landscaping that needed to be done. There's a lot of deferred maintenance. The original kitchen from 1979, which is a beautiful era. Let's see, what else about this? Yeah, those are really some of the criteria. I mean, you don't know what's selling in the market. A 2-bathroom is going to sell a lot easier than a 1-bathroom. So I'm not looking for a house that only has 1 bathroom unless there's an opportunity to add another one.
Yeah. Well, that all makes a lot of sense to me. I think the live-in flip thing, it can be very lucrative, but the numbers have to make sense. You've got to be able to make a lot of, buy something that's undervalued. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
Love those points. And
I think an important point to that is you're not necessarily looking at it as a retail buyer, where you're willing to pay a premium for, the nice, everything nice about the property. I mean, you're coming in it with an open mind saying, okay, I know there's going to be some work done, but given the other parts of the area and what the upside of this opportunity could be, I mean, that's really the lens with which you look through it. So I think that's an awesome piece of information that you share with us. So, and this is probably one of the biggest questions, especially with someone who's looking to undertake any type of renovation work, is how do you assess the scope of what needs to be done? Obviously, now you're extremely experienced in this on this front. You've done a lot of the work yourself in the past, so you kind of already know what it's going to take. But if someone is, just starting to their journey and they want to pursue the live and flip as maybe their first or second investment opportunity, how would they even know what the scope is of the work?
Get a good home inspection. And you need a good home inspector. I have a home inspector. I'm an agent in Colorado. I use the same group of people for a lot of things. I have the same lender that I use all the time, the same home inspector. My home inspector is a rock star. He does not care if you buy this house. He wants you to know absolutely everything that's wrong with this house before you buy it. So he gives me this giant list of things that he has found that don't make code, or are safety issues, are violations, without any regard for if the property is going to sell to me or not. He doesn't care if the deal goes through. He's just going to do his job. And what makes him so different is there are some inspectors out there who aren't like that. They're like, oh yeah, it looks pretty good. Or I found this one little thing, because they want the deal to go through, because then the agent will recommend them some more. He's like, I have all the work I can handle. I don't need any more agents referring me. I need people to understand what they're buying. And that is a rock star home inspector. He's not the cheapest. He's not even close to the cheapest. And that's okay, because you want to know before you buy a house that has $10,000 worth of plumbing problems, that it has $10,000 worth of plumbing problems. He's also a former contractor. So when we're going through the home, I will ask him, because I can hear him saying to my clients, oh, this is broken, that's broken, that's broken. I'm like, I could see them freaking out. Is that a $10 fix, or is that a $10,000 fix? And he can know, oh, this replacing the sewer line, I've seen that starts at $7,500. Great. That's not a $20 fix. They need to know about that. So accurately assessing the scope of the work starts with a really good home inspector. Is it ASHI, the American Society of Home Inspectors? I think is a great place to start. Ask your friends, ask your real estate agent. Say, I want somebody who's really good. I don't want them to gloss over all of the things. I want to know what's going on. But then also walk through the property yourself. And right now is kind of a twitchy time to be buying real estate, because you've got 15 or maybe 30-minute windows to see. It used to be you could schedule a showing and have it last for an hour. And now you can get maybe 15 minutes or 30 minutes if your agent is being really, really, really generous. So that's not enough time to get in there and really look at stuff. Schedule a second showing and go back and really look around. Take a big smell. I knew I had to remediate the smoke, because when I walked out of the house after being inside for 30 minutes, I had to change clothes. I smelled so bad. That's a big deal. Once we closed on the house, I just opened up every window. There's nothing in here anyway. Nobody's stealing anything. Another thing to do is know the cost of your repairs. Jay Scott wrote a book called The Book on Estimating Rehab Costs, and that's super helpful. I used to be able to get a roof when I lived in the Chicagoland area for like $5,000. And now out here in Colorado, that same roof is $15,000. That's a huge chunk of profit if I'm not aware of how much it costs. And I was quite shocked the first time, and a roofing company gave me a quote for $15,000. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then I called a couple more and they're like, yeah, it's $15,000. I'm like, that is insane. But no, it's going to cost what it's going to cost. So know that in advance. Let's see, accurately assessing the scope of the work. Yeah, you just got to walk around and make really, really detailed notes. Be the pickiest person you've ever met in your life walking down. The windows are not opening. Great, they need to be replaced. I replaced all the windows and 3 sliding glass doors in my house when I moved in a year ago, and that cost $17,000 with a big discount from a friend. That's a big expense. Know that going in. Know what things cost. They had just re-sided the whole house before we moved in. I'm like, wow, thanks for choosing literally the cheapest siding ever. I wouldn't have chosen this at all, but it's already done. The roof has already been repaired. It has a pool. I live in Colorado. Pools are not that common out here. And that's another reason why it sat on the market for a while, because nobody wants a pool out here. There are a lot of work to take care of, and you basically get 3 months out of the year to swim. And you can push that to like 4, a couple of weeks on either side of the summer if you have a pool heater, which we didn't have. So that is, we got a pool inspection, another inspection. Sorry, somebody keeps pinging me. I've got to turn them off because they won't stop. The pool inspector cost like $500, and he's going around. He's like, this is broken. This is broken. This is broken. This is broken.
Oh,
and how much is that going to cost? That's going to be about $30,000. I'm like, how much does it cost to just destroy the pool and like fill it in? He's like, it's about $5,000. I'm going to swim for as long as I can swim, and then I'm going to destroy the pool and fill it in. I'm not going to spend $30,000 fixing up a pool. But like the tiles are falling off. Okay, it's not going to hurt me. The pool still holds water. I've had several people come out and they're like, the pool still holds water. It just needs to be completely resurfaced for $15,000. Well, that's $15,000 I'm not going to spend. But, you just have to be prepared with what things cost and stick to your budget once you set a budget. Oh, okay, I'm going to do about $50,000 in this house. If it goes to $52,000 with $3,000 or $300,000 worth of wiggle room, $2,000 over is not a big deal. But when I go $2,000 over my budget, every single thing, then it adds up. And my $50,000 renovation is now $150,000. And that's not as much profit. So you have to make a budget and stick to it. And I think I answered like 15 questions instead of just the one you asked. Sorry.
No, you did great. So one of the things I think a lot of people struggle with is, so you have your scope of work and you know what you want to do. How do you plan out all the process for the renovation to make sure you're able to live there, happily with your family, and then also get stuff done at the same time? Like what types of things you do first? What do you save for the last?
I do habitability first. So I can cook in an ugly kitchen, but I can't live in a house filled with smoke. So we pulled all the smoke out first. And then we did, this one, we didn't really do such a smart job. And we finished up the basement because we needed another space because COVID happened. And, now everybody has their own separate space, which is nice. So you do things that are going to work for you, but you also have to do kind of the same process. When you drywall, you need to make sure that everything that goes behind the drywall has already been done. You can't do drywall and then come back and do electricity. That's a terrible idea. So if you're going to open up walls, make sure everything inside the wall is finished before you do drywall. Drywall is like third to last, and then there's painting, and then there's flooring. You don't want to paint on top of brand new floor and then spill it all over the place. So you just think through things a little bit intelligently, and you always keep one room untouched. We have our master bedroom, hideous bathroom. That's okay. It functions. And then that's a space that we can close the door and watch a movie and not worry that the entire house is covered in drywall dust because it was drywall day, and that's a disaster. A couple of weeks ago, my husband was pulling up old tile by the door and replacing it. And he took this grinder and just ground down all the extra mastic that was sticking to the bottom of sticking to the wood. I'm like, oh, you made a face. Does it sound like it made a mess? Because it did, all over the whole house. Like it's this weird split level house. Every single level has this ground up dust all over the place.
Oh, no.
So maybe don't use a grinder.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear you say that, because again, like you said, you have to live in the house. So I think that was one of the biggest concerns for a lot of people is like, well, how do I start off? Do I start off with my bedroom and then I have to sleep on the couch for however long that takes, especially if you're doing the work yourself? It may take you a couple of weeks to be able to get the place ready to go, or, whatever else. So I think that was some great insights.
Yeah. If you have another place to live, maybe you have some overlap, like a month or two of overlap, do all your demolition when you don't live in the house, and then clean it all up. And then it's okay that you're, kind of living in a construction zone. You're not living in dust and dirt. If you don't have a demolition time period that you can get in there and crunch everything out, then keep the dust out of your living spaces. Put a towel underneath the door. Put a towel, around tape off the doors and the windows, and, try to keep the dust as contained as you can. Cause yeah, I'm not excited about cleaning off literally every surface in my entire house.
Sure. So when you're going through the process of performing your live and flip, what were some of the resources that you tapped into in order to, complete the projects that you did?
I attend YouTube University religiously. Jay Scott's book is super helpful. The estimating rehab costs, I'm still flipping through that and looking through. It's been updated in the last year or two. I'm still flipping through that to, get some ideas. How much does flooring cost? Well, I know how much flooring costs. How much does electricity cost? We always had my father-in-law do our electricity. He's an electrician. He passed away last summer, so we don't have, that sounds so flip. I'm sorry. We really miss him. But now I have to learn about electricity. My husband just ran all the electricity in the basement this summer, which was fun for him. He likes to learn new things. So YouTube University, though, is the best, hands down, place to learn how to do. How do I paint my wall? Oh, here's 37,000 videos on how to paint your wall. And how do you stud out a basement? My husband watched several videos. He's like, oh, I like this guy the best. And he started watching. We made a deck outside and we bent our Trex in to go around the curve. It's really beautiful. It was not a really easy process. He's like, oh, we'll just put it in the sun. It doesn't get hot enough in the sun. Even in the summer, we had to buy silicone blankets and warm it up to like 300 degrees and then get heating like oven mitts to handle it and like bend it around this thing. YouTube showed us how to do that though. I think it was Dr. Deck. He was pretty cool. So yeah, YouTube University, hands down, the best place to learn how to do all of this stuff, because and you watch a video and you're like, oh, that was interesting. Watch another video. If they're doing the same thing, they're probably right. Or maybe somebody else has a trick that you've never heard of before, but there's like, don't just watch one video and be like, oh, I could do it like this. Watch several videos and see how they're doing it. Like cutting in when you're painting a wall and you're cutting into the corners, that is so much easier than putting the blue tape around everything and then pulling that off. Have you ever pulled the tape off and then some of the paint comes with it?
Or some of the floor.
So you're just like, oh, now I have another repair. But if you learn how to cut in, which is not that hard, practice where the walls meet. If you're going to paint both walls the same color, practice in there anyway. It's super easy to do and just saves you a ton of time. But yeah, YouTube University. Sorry, that was a long answer.
Well, let's just talk about YouTube for a second. YouTube is, in my opinion, it's worth, I pay $14.99 a month for the YouTube premium because there's so much information on YouTube and you can go on there. And what I like to do is put something on that I want to learn about, and you can listen to it on your, your earbuds or play it and just, black it out on your screen. A lot of stuff you don't have to watch. You can just listen to it. And there's so much information out there that the amount of education you can get from YouTube is huge. So I tell everybody I know, you need to get on YouTube and watch as much as you can, because like you said, stuff isn't that hard and the information is out there. So
yeah.
So I love that you said that.
And I'll even add, Home Depot actually helps too. Like I've been to Home Depot obviously quite a bit, and I'm not the most mechanically inclined person in the world, but whenever I go there and I have a particular question, everyone always was really helpful. And I always ask stupid questions where I'm like, well, how do you do this? And a lot of the people there, they have a lot of experience doing those sort of things, and so they kind of just walk me through the process. Or if someone in the facility doesn't know, they'll be like, oh, this guy down the way in aisle 4 or 5 knows how to do it. So it's just one of those things where I definitely encourage people to take advantage of the expertise that's at one of these places, whether it's Home Depot or Lowe's. So
cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so we've also all made mistakes with contractors that we've hired in the past. I know I've had some crazy situations and stories, and I'm sure you do too, Mindy. But what types of tricks and tips do you have for people for finding good contractors, reliable contractors that, would do a good job for you?
I found my best contractor walking for dollars. And there was this house that was being worked on, And we kept going back, and we kept, like, the guys were quiet. They weren't obnoxious. I'm sure you've worked with contractors who were obnoxious and, swearing and spitting and smoking all over the place. And they've all worked on my house too. But these guys were like, they would put their garbage in a pile, in like a neat pile, instead of just throwing it all over the place. It was just, they were respectful of the fact that somebody was living in the house that they were working on. So we went over and talked to them, and they're like, oh yeah, we can do that kind of work. And by the way, it's stairs day. Why don't you come in? I'll show you how I do my stairs. The quietest stairs I have ever seen in my life. He glues them and nails them or screws them or something. It's been a while since he did this, but was like, I want to hire you just based on the stairs. And we hired them. They did a fabulous job. This was, of course, the second contractor. The first guy we got off Craigslist, which is not the best place to find a contractor. Yes, you can find a good contractor there, but you could also find a whole lot of bad ones. So we had to fire him because he wasn't doing a good job. We talked about an hourly wage, which is not necessarily the best way to pay your contractors, because sometimes then that job that would have been done in 10 hours gets done in 25. So that's a lesson that we learned. Pay by the job. And, you always hold back a little bit until the very end, until everything's all done, your punch list is done. Jay Scott has a really great suggestion to go to Home Depot in the morning, like at 6 o'clock in the morning, and see who's there stocking up for the day, and talk to the guys at the pro desk. Hey, who's somebody that you would use on your house, or who's somebody that you would recommend to your mom to use on her house, as opposed to going there at 11 o'clock in the morning. Those are the guys that forgot their stuff and have to come back, or they weren't prepared for the day, and now they've got to come back again and get it. Some of the lumber yards, like the standalone lumber yards, will have good relationships with contractors. They know the guys that are always coming in and, doing a good job. So there's a lot of ways to find a good contractor, but Craigslist isn't one of them. And interview them. If they don't respond, if they don't call back right away, that's not the person you want to talk to and work with. And it is hard right now. Everybody and their mother is trying to do a repair on their house. So you're going to pay more, and it's going to be more expensive. It's going to take longer to find somebody. Learn how to do it yourself. You can do anything. It's not that hard.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Definitely true.
Yeah.
Plus, if you know how to do it, then you can be like, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? Oh, well, that's how it's done. No, it's not. That is not how it's done. You can, and if you know that it's a 12-hour job, somebody comes in and says it's going to take 3 weeks, maybe I don't want to hire you. So having that base is really good. But yeah, it goes back to YouTube University. Learn how to do this stuff.
No, I think that's great advice. And I know Luke, when he first started, he was doing a lot of the work himself, and now he's kind of leveraged his experience to now just hire out the work, and he can hold people accountable, because it's now, I've done a lot of this work myself, and I have that experience now, so that he can tell if a contractor is not telling the truth, or or something that they're
I've had some very uncomfortable conversations with contractors where I know they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and they think they're the smartest person in the room, and they talk down to you like crazy, and you're just like, dude.
Now be a woman having that same
I know, right?
I can only imagine.
And it's even worse then.
Oh, honey, just tell me what color you want. I want to see the back of you. That's what I want. Go.
Oh my gosh.
But
I got this one contractor who somehow the guy across the street or something, the guy that was across the street from a house I was rehabbing was also rehabbing that house. And he looked at the job for the guy doing some tile work. He did 3 tile bathrooms for me, and it was a nightmare. And he looked at the guy's job across the street, and he quoted the guy. He ended up not hiring him or something. Anyways, so the guy is selling his house across the street, and somehow the contractor found a buyer for the house, and he brings the buyer and gets it under contract, and everything looks good. And the seller's like, oh yeah, contractor, we'll give you some money, we'll give you some money for the referral or whatever. And he's all like, oh, okay. So the next time he sees the dude, I have a camera on my property, so I've got it on camera. He sees the guy and he's like, where the fuck is my money? And he's like screaming at the guy and yelling at the guy about all his money. And it was, I mean, I'm sorry for sharing the story, but it was incredible. You see the guy's true colors. He didn't know my camera was watching him. And then I was like, oh, never hiring that guy. I mean, I was already planning on not hiring him, but it was wild.
Yeah, it can be a real trip.
Yeah.
Definitely. So now that we've kind of gone through the process, right, from start to finish, what advice do you have for people, again, when you're living in a place with your family or you know, you're a couple or whatever else, what advice would you give to couples and families looking to undertake this strategy? Because again, it's going to be, you're going to be in close proximity to one another. You're probably going to have to go through some very difficult times as far as renovations are concerned. So what advice would you share with them?
You know, probably about it. You will go through some very difficult times. This is not something for the faint of heart. And this is not something for somebody who like, oh, let's flip a house and it'll bring us closer together. No, it won't. It is a lot of work. And there are days that you walk into the house and you're like, I'm done. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I'm having a bad day. Something's broken. Like we had it turned out to be not such a big deal, but after everything else that was broken on this house, we had a hose spigot on the outside where it broke and it started leaking into the house. And I walked downstairs and there's this huge bubble of paint. And I'm like, I can't do another thing. This broke me. I can't do this anymore. I quit. I want to burn this house down. I never want to do this again. And that lasted for like 30 minutes. But my husband and I have a really, really strong relationship. So that one thing didn't break us. And this can absolutely break you. Watch The Money Pit. Did you see it's a Tom Hanks and Shelley Long movie from the 80s. Watch that movie because that is a documentary on some of my flips. And I mean, it can just be like so soul crushing. So absolutely make sure that you really want to do this and don't bite off more than you can chew in your first one. Redo flooring. That's pretty easy. Paint the walls. I mean, a coat of paint is huge. Paint the walls, redo the flooring and, you know, swap out the light fixtures or the plumbing fixtures or, you know, redo a bathroom. That'll take a lot of time. You could do it in a weekend, but boy, it's a lot of work. Be sure that you want to do this and have a strong relationship. Don't try to fix your relationship on this because it can be a lot of work. It can be a lot of stress. It's a lot of fun to cash those giant checks that you're not paying any taxes on at the end, but that comes after 2 years of working on the house or, you know, 2 years after you've lived in the house for 2 years or more. So it can be a little bit. So, and always keep a room free from working on so you can have a place to relax. Take a vacation, plan a vacation.
So is there a number of live-in flips that you plan on doing? Do you plan on always doing it? I know that's something that I always think is interesting, like, because for some people it's a lifestyle, you know. it's a fun way to make money and you enjoy it and it just is what it is. Or is it the type of thing that, you know, you have got a certain number that you're going to do and then you might not do it anymore? What do you think? So
it has always been our lifestyle since we've been married. This is our 10th.
Oh,
and
wow, that's awesome.
The one that we lived in the one that we just sold, we lived there for 6 years. We will probably live in this house for the remainder of my 11-year-old's school days and may hold on to it afterwards, maybe not. We like the process. It's a fun process to come in and take this god-awful house and make it look beautiful. It's fun to learn new skills. I know how to install hardwood flooring. I know how to install LVP and tile because I learned while I was, you know, fixing up the houses. My husband he's like, can I do this whole bathroom in 1 week? And so he ripped everything off and it had wallpaper on it. And it was a carpeted bathroom. I don't understand why they could put carpet in the bathrooms on the floor here in Colorado. But so he ripped all that out. He installed new tile floors. He painted the walls. He installed this fun wall on the back and a new vanity. And it looked really cool, and he did it in a week. And like, that was a fun challenge for him. And I don't think I'm ever going to pay retail prices for a house, just because I know that I can make it look pretty by myself. But I don't think I'm going to do a pop top again. I've done 2. I'm good. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. Especially while living there, I would guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've just got contractors in your house all the time. Cause I can't do, I said in the beginning that we do all the work ourselves. We do all the finished work ourselves, but like the actual adding the second story, we hired somebody to do that. And I have a list now of things that I won't do. I won't do roofs. I won't do gutters. I won't do cement flat work, and I won't do drywall. I hire those out because it's an art to do the drywall. It's heavy. I don't want to do the roof. That's heavy too. The gutters, the seamless gutters, those guys come out, they've got this machine in the back of their car or truck, and they just like zip it out, cut it up, and put it on. Whereas you're trying, and you're doing this in like 7 different stages, and you're like, I need 27 more hands to get this up on the thing. Plus, I'm not very tall, so I have to be on a ladder and holding this giant piece of gutter. That's just worth hiring out. I mean, I think it costs $300 more to have them come do it than it costs me to buy all the parts.
Worth it.
Worth it.
1,000% worth it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the preset questions we had for you. I mean, we just kind of wanted to give, a little bit of time for people in the audience to ask questions. So this is the Q&A session. I'm going to go ahead and check on Facebook as well to see if anyone has any questions.
Sure.
So
hit me up.
Chime away in the chat if you guys are interested in asking any questions.
Ooh, let me go to the chat. Where's the chat?
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I know. So my first investment was a 4-plex, a house hack. But I didn't do the work myself. I was working full time at the time. And I know that like my girlfriend and I, we moved into one of the apartments, and I know she wouldn't have been thrilled about doing a lot of the work either. So I kind of wish I would have done, the renovation, at least of our apartment, because again, it wasn't a huge apartment. It was about 800 square feet. And, we probably needed to replace some of the flooring, and, the bathroom it was okay. It was pretty ugly, but, we could have lived with it and whatever else, but it was definitely a unique experience. So.
Yeah. Right. Oh, Mindy, I think you're muted there.
I knew I was going to do that at one point. You should see when I record the podcast, that'll happen a lot. Scott will be like, oh, it looks like Mindy's talking. Sometimes I say bad words. He's like, I know what she just said.
You guys, I've listened to your podcast on multiple occasions. So it's amazing. You guys do a really good job. How's that progress been? I mean, you guys now have hundreds of episodes at this point, and you guys have been able to interview a ton of great people. Like, would you be able to share maybe some of your, I guess, top experiences from the podcast that you've had so far?
I learned about the 457 plan. It's a retirement plan for teachers and public employees, and it is usually offered in tandem with another plan that is equal to a 401k. And your 457 is kind of like a 401k. So you can put the same amount of money into each plan. So instead of the 19,500 that we can put in, you can put in 19,500 into your 401k and 19,500 into your 457. So if you're a highly paid employee, you can reduce your taxable income that way. And then when you separate from service, you can access those 457 funds instantly with no fees. You're just paying taxes on the money. So it's a great way to kind of get the best of both worlds with the reducing your taxable income and then also accessing the money without fees. I just found out that there's a Roth option for the 457 plan. So if anybody is listening and has 457 plan, if you're a public employee, see if you can have a 457 plan and toss a lot of money into that. I learned that from Jamila Souffrant. I think she was episode 31 or 37. We've talked to a lot of really interesting people. We don't really focus on real estate so much there. It's Bigger Pockets Money. So it's mostly about money. But the reason that we started the podcast in the first place is because when you go into the forums on Bigger Pockets, one of the most frequently asked questions is, how do I get started investing in real estate with no money and bad credit? You don't. If you don't have any money, you have no business investing in real estate. And if you have bad credit, you need to fix that. So Brandon wrote a book called The Book on Investing in Real Estate with No and Low Money Down. And that's a great book to get in using other people's money. But if you don't have any reserves of your own, you don't have any business buying real estate at this time. You need to build a reserve fund. COVID taught us that you need a much heftier reserve fund in some cases than maybe you thought you did. And it's been a year, almost like what do we just have the anniversary?
Yeah.
I remember in the forums that next week, people were coming in and saying, how am I going to pay my April's rent? Or I'm sorry, not April's rent, April's mortgage. How am I going to pay April's mortgage payment? Like, you should have already had April's mortgage payment in the bank sitting there with June and July. What are you doing? Oh, and May, I forgot a month. And May. You should have this money in the bank sitting there waiting. And some people are of the mindset, no, I have to deploy every dollar. Sometimes you just deploy them as placeholders and waiting for your tenants not to pay rent so you can still afford your house and not lose it. There's horror stories where the landlord had to lose his house because he couldn't pay the mortgage and his tenant wasn't paying rent and he couldn't evict him. And that's horrible. Don't get in that position.
Yeah.
And
I think that's great advice. I mean, the idea that leverage and maximizing your returns all the time, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, yes, you can get a quote unquote better return by deploying all your capital and leveraging everything to the hilt. But, returns, especially outsized returns, are risk. So if something were to happen, it could knock you off your feet. And, the first rule is don't get knocked out of the game, because once you get knocked out of the game, it's a lot harder to get back in.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So Justin C. Hey, Justin. He was asking, what's your thoughts on a live-in flip versus a house hack? And
so a live-in flip is a type of house hack. And you can mix all these comments, and you could do a BRRRR live-in flip house hack. It is house hacking is just a way to hack your housing. So I am hacking my housing by making my house an investment. And I don't personally house hack anymore because I am married and have 2 kids, and it doesn't fit in with the lifestyle that we do. I don't know how old Justin is, but if he's like in his early 20s, the guy who wrote the house hacking book is Craig Curlop. He's 26, I think. He doesn't have a wife or kids, so it's okay for him to sleep behind a screen on his couch while he's renting out the 1 bedroom in his 1 bedroom apartment. But house hacking is a really great way to get started, and live-in flipping is another really great way to get started. You could double down and have a really ugly duplex that you are fixing up the one side, and then you flop places with the other guy and fix up the other side. So you're still living there, you're still doing the house hacking, but now you're also making money. Like, why fix it up and then move in when you could move in and fix it up while you're living there?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we had Chad Carson on a while back, and I think he executed that. I think he did that strategy for one of his properties, if I'm not mistaken, when he first started Clemson, or just after Clemson. I can't remember exactly, but
yeah, that sounds like something Chad would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
He's a
think you're
great
right
guy.
about that, Raphael. I remember him talking about that. That's a good strategy, though. Double down on it. I like that.
Yeah, and then once you're done with all of that, you pull all your money out from your BRRRR because you bought it as an owner occupant, so you have a very low down payment. Pull it all out and then go do the next one. I mean, it's really easy to generate a lot of income and make a lot of, have a lot of properties just moving every couple of years.
Yeah. And the first one's like you guys say, I mean, with Bigger Pockets, your goal is to get people into the first one, because once you start building momentum, that's really where the magic starts happening. So But yeah, I mean, both strategies are phenomenal. Okay. Awesome. So I think you answered all the questions that everyone had. I mean, Mindy, I just want to thank you so much for stopping by and talking to us today. As far as if people want to learn more about you, if people want to reach out or ask any additional questions, how can people do that?
They can find me all over BiggerPockets.com. I am the co-host of the BiggerPockets Money Podcast, which is located wherever you get your podcasts. We have a Facebook group called BiggerPockets Money. If you want to join, you have to answer all the questions, including the last one that says, I agree to follow your rules. Because it is a place to talk about concepts and ask questions, not spam people and generate income for yourself. I mean, there's a lot of business that gets done on the BiggerPockets forums and in the Facebook groups, but not publicly. It's more of like provide value and you will reap massive rewards. So, but yeah, if you have a question about money, you want to hit me up. I'm all over Facebook and all over BiggerPockets. I love to talk about this stuff. So please ask me anything.
The first podcast episode I ever listened to, the BiggerPockets one, I can't remember which one it was, but you were a co-host of the regular BiggerPockets podcast, back in the day when we used to do that. And so I remember really enjoying it. And it was one of the episodes that led to the next episode, led to the next one. And so I really appreciate everything you do for the investing community with BiggerPockets and the podcast and everything. So thank you so much for everything.
Well, thank you for listening.
Yeah, we love it. So.
Thank you. Awesome. And thanks for having me on. I'd love to come back.
Oh yeah. And again, if you're ever in Louisville at some point, we'll be meeting in person too. And those in-person events are always awesome. So
yeah, I bet
you're always more than welcome to stop by. And I'm sure at some point we'll potentially see each other at a BiggerPockets conference or something along those lines as well. So
fingers crossed. Okay. Well, thank you for having me. Have a good day.
Yeah. See you guys.
Too. Thanks.
See ya.